This is Kokoszki, which is a suburb of Gdańsk. It's on the western side of the city, bit industrial, a bit residential, mix of both. It's located to the west of the ring road, the motorway, the Polish number 6, and very close effectively to the town centre. This was in Poland in the interwar period. The border was approximately 1.5 kilometers from where I'm standing right now. In fact, the location of the border has been memorialized by a recently built roundabout, which states at the roundabout of the border between Poland and the Free City of Gdańsk. This is the location of the former subcamp of the Stutthof concentration camp of Danzig Kokoschken. So Kokoschken with a K, is the German word for this place. Now, it's a subcamp. Here were brought on the 13th of September 1944, 600 people were brought here, and in stages another 1,500 people came here. And from here they were taken by train, the railway line, you can see there, or what's left of it I should say, because I think a road's being built there now. It's clearly been dug up recently, and they were taken to the Gdańsk shipyard to work on submarines and air raid shelters. Now, give you a little bit of the background. The people who came here were largely Jewish, but not entirely. And let's go back a little bit in time. So Hungary was occupied by the Nazis in March 1944. The Holocaust in Hungary happened very, very quickly. So people were being deported in huge numbers to Auschwitz by the early summer of 1944. And now the capacity for murder, or rather to destroy bodies in Auschwitz, was 4,800 bodies per day, but they also used open pits. But even that wasn't enough, so all these people were coming. So what I did was they directed them, and a lot of them were directed to the Stutthof camp. And so I was doing some research in Stutthof in 1993, and we've got the books, or nearly all of the books of the arrivals still exist, and you can see page after page, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of names of people who've come from Hungary. Some of these people ended up being kept in Stutthof, and others came here. It wasn't just people from Hungary, I need to make this very clear, but it was from other places as well who were here, all over Nazi occupied Europe. Also, some of the people were held by the Gestapo in Danzig were brought here. So I use the words Danzig and Gdańsk interchangeably, and it was clear that those came from the Gestapo came here directly, and that was to a subcamp. That was unusual, but this was now towards the end of the war. They normally go to the main camp first, they would be registered, or be registered somewhere, and they enter into the system, so to speak. So it's a bit odd to have people kept here, then taken approximately 12 kilometers by rail every day. Completely inefficient. They could have housed the people where they were, the slaves where they were working them. 2 12-hour shifts a day, and in the non-shift time, obviously you've got other things related to transport and anything else that needed doing. Now, the thing with the National Socialist way of doing things is that the ideology was more important than the production. So Himmler, you can see this in letters written, memoranda written by Himmler and others, that the aim is to kill the Jews, and any economic considerations are put into second place. However, and this is important, even as early as 1942 in the Soviet Union, the economic considerations from time to time were put into second place. The people who lived, I don't know if that's the right word, who were imprisoned, the inmates, the victims, they were fed on, if they were lucky, a quarter of a kilo of bread, and they might get some hot water with bits of vegetables thrown in it, which was called soup. Now, the thing about the bread I need to point out as well is when we're talking about bread in the 1940s, it wasn't baked as it is now. Now it's far more highly calorific. That, of course, is a bad thing if you're eating it today in the conditions that we have. But for the people at the time, what they needed were calories in order to stay alive and to do what could be, in some cases, very hard physical labor. So I've walked down here to the bridge, and you can see the road is under construction, but we can still see the railway line. So the railway line, it's incidentally in maps of the Free City of Gdańsk from the interwar period, you can see the railway line there very clearly as well. So they go that way, and it sort of turns in like that, the railway. There's a city set, that shipyard really is sort of more or less in this direction. More or less, something along those, or maybe more to there. Now, in 1984, a memorial was put up to the victims of this camp. Now, at a little point here, I tried to find it using the railway line, and it was only after I'd done that, with some difficulty, that I thought, I could have just looked at where the memorial was. Of course, in many cases, the memorials do not exist. Let's cross the road, and we'll go up to the memorial and see what it says up here. We don't know how many of these prisoners died. They were badly treated, that we know. Even at this stage of the war, they didn't have winter clothing. So they arrived here in September. Let's say they were deported from Hungary. Those they'd have lost their clothes somewhere en route. Camp garb, which was next to nothing. So that also would have taken its toll. To the eternal glory and memory of the prisoners of the subcamp of Stutthof at Kokoszki, who were tortured and murdered by the Nazi killers from 1944 to 1945. I didn't do a very good job on that translation, as Menchonek means not really tortured, but sort of forced to do things. Well, maybe it is tortured, but it's forced to do things beyond your strength. And this is what it looks like today. I must point out though that this is in very good condition, which isn't always the case, and this has been done up quite nicely. So it is possible to remember the victims of this camp at this location. So I do a lot of videos of this type. I spend most of my time, or nearly all my time, in Poland and in Germany. My specialist area is the Holocaust, but I know a little bit about World War II and the Nazi period as well. So if you want to know more about this type of thing, then please subscribe. Incidentally, it's always possible, it's not always possible, it's highly probable that there's something I forgot to say. Not a lot's known about this camp. But if there's something I forgot to say and I remember later, I either redo the video, which means another visit in this case, or alternatively I'll put it all down in the description below, and that is the place to look for more information. Bear in mind the description below is limited to 5,000 characters, and very often I have more words than the 5,000 characters which are permitted, so please understand that one. So thanks very much for watching. Lots of stuff from Gdańsk as well. This is my favorite place in the world. This is where I come every summer. I'm leaving now, and I've got other information about other camps, including an SS penal camp, which is not far from here, about 7.5 kilometers from here, and there's also other videos on Stutthof as well. Thanks for watching, and all the best from me in Gdańsk.